Hey there, greetings from internet land. Today, for this journal, I will be discussing who I interviewed as part of my functional behavioral assessment or analysis project, how I am operationally defining the problem behavior of the chosen student, and what I have initially learned about the behavior from this interview. So let us begin, shall we? Firstly, I conducted my interview with the parent of my student. For the purposes of confidentiality, we'll call her Joyce, the parent, and the student shall continue to be referred to as Parker, as I referenced him before in the past. During the interview with the parent, I asked Joyce, to describe any problem behaviors that she noticed in Parker, both while working on schoolwork and while doing anything else within the home. The reason I asked for observations in both scenarios is very simple. Parker may exhibit different behaviors, may behave differently while working on schoolwork than he does while doing other activities. And I feel it's important to make this distinction because we're trying to establish when he's exhibiting these behaviors, what the triggers are, the antecedent for it all. Per Joyce, Parker tends to he does just fine when playing by himself or watching a movie or a cartoon with other family members or doing any preferred task. He does rather well, very little behavior. That's in a negative vein. When asked how Parker behaves during non-preferred tasks, when I asked that, such as helping with taking out the garbage, which was mentioned by Joyce, is not something he really likes to do. Washing dishes or setting the table, he's not too thrilled about that either. Joyce responded that he does well most of the time. These are quick tasks, not that big of a deal. But on occasion, Parker will exhibit similar behaviors previously observed while working on school assignments. So it's similar. He'll pout. He'll claim he does not know when asked a question regarding the task at hand. He'll put his head down on the table. He'll fidget, hum, and on occasion begin to cry or scrunch up his face and squeeze his eyes shut, which is usually a precursor to actually crying, but it's like an emotional shutdown, even if only for a few seconds, and then he'll reset. This tends to happen during times when a friend of the family brings her son over for a play date and the concept of sharing is brought up. Parker doesn't always tend to do the best with that. Or when the other child wishes to watch a cartoon that Parker is not interested in. All of these observations of negative behavior tend to happen during a non-preferred task for Parker, but are considered mild reactions per Joyce. So it's not too bad in these social incidents, but they can be. On the other hand, when asked how often he displays these behaviors when working on school assignments, Joyce stated that Parker tends to exhibit the behavior far more during these times than any other time. Reading and writing tend to be the two subjects in which Parker has the most resistance to and displays the undesired behaviors with the most frequency. Math, social studies, science, not so much. Occasionally, especially when he doesn't understand something, but not nearly as much as with reading and writing. These are definitely non-preferred tasks. Based on my own observations when I'm working with him several days a week for his specialized academic instruction reading sessions, I must concur that these behaviors occur rather frequently as well for these two subjects. I am operationally defining this behavior as classic avoidance behavior, stemming from emotional overload brought on by frustration during non-preferred tasks. Sometimes this behavior is manifested through frustration over genuinely not understanding. Other times it's just he does not like to do it. And Parker has been observed during other non-preferred tasks throughout the home as well. It's just not as prevalent during schoolwork, which has necessitated this IEP in the first place, though an FBA is not currently on file. And when asked to read a word or just one word, a sight word he's working on, or a short passage of just a few words, which even if he has read it flawlessly before, Parker will often display these same negative behaviors, which leads us to believe, of course, that he's avoiding this. He's already done it. He doesn't want to anymore. There tends to be an excuse, and then he'll use avoidance behavior. What I've learned from my interview has been very useful. Given what I've already mentioned, I've learned that Parker exhibits the same behaviors that he does with me or others he works with in school, while working with his mother and at home. So my approach isn't the problem. It may not be the best approach. I'm always coming up with new ideas, yet it's not the sole reason that he's doing this. In fact, it's not really exhibiting those issues at all. It's just exhibiting negative behavior normally during non-preferred tasks. It's primarily been during non-preferred tasks. I feel that Joyce has been very open and honest with me in sharing her observations and her desire for an official FBA. This will naturally, in accordance with school policy, be largely implemented by the school psychologist who last assessed him for this initial IEP in the past. And I'll also be able to collaborate, which is cool, by addressing my observations to be included within the FBA, but I will not be writing the whole thing myself. Some of the language will go into that as well. That's just how it works. That's collaboration. And we'll be able to actually share the FBA as part of the assignment, which is pretty cool. I'm hopeful that progress will be made. As always, thank you for coming with me on this little digital journey. And I shall see you all again on future adventures in Internet Land. Thank you very much. Peace.